I want to talk to you about marriage because a lot of people are really concerned about getting married a second time after their first marriage. And I've been hearing a lot of things about people saying, no, you should never get married a second time. It's a sin. Okay, well, yeah, it is. In a lot of cases, it is. But the fact of the matter is, most of us never asked God who we should marry. We sinned to begin with by marrying that person because we didn't consider God in the marriage. And does the marriage really count if we didn't consider God? I don't believe it did. I don't believe it did. So when you get married a second time and you consider God in that marriage, then that marriage, I believe, counts. Now, there are a lot of reasons for getting a divorce: abuse, abandonment, many, many different things. And the Bible does talk about that just as well. And of course, adultery. And the Bible talks about that. And people always seem to forget those parts. Look them up, they're in there. But I want to share something with you about my first marriage. My first marriage, my ex-husband and I, we got married very young. Or we got together very young. We lived together for 5 years, which, right there was a sin. We had a child out of wedlock. Right there was a sin. We were neither one asked God about marrying each other because we were not godly people. We didn't follow the Bible. We didn't really know anything about the Bible. Now, I want to tell you how ungodly my marriage was. When we did get married, we considered getting married on Halloween because that's when we got together. And we considered going as Mr. and Mrs. Frankenstein. We considered getting married by a Buddhist preacher who was going to marry us for a 6-pack and a bag of green stuff. Let's just put it that way. And we didn't end up doing that. But what we did end up doing is getting married on Memorial Day weekend, which was just as bad, actually. Now, because God didn't ordain our marriage, I truly believe this is why we had such a hard time in our marriage. We suffered. We had a miscarriage. We also had stillbirth, babies, twins. We lost a daughter to SIDS. We went through 2 tornadoes. We went through 2 floods. I had a heart attack, a widowmaker. I died and I had to come back. Our first house, the land and the house was contaminated. Our second house burnt to the ground. Our restaurant, we lost our restaurant. Not because the food wasn't good, not because we weren't getting business, but it was during COVID times. The excavation company my ex-husband and I tried to put together, we couldn't get off the ground. It was one thing after another in our marriage. And commitment was never an issue because we were both very committed to the marriage, or we wouldn't have lasted 38 years. 5 years of living together and 38 years married. So I'm going to say 43 years. Also, I had a mental breakdown that took me a long time to recover from. Now, I believe that because we didn't ask God about marrying each other. We didn't ask God who we should marry. We didn't ask God nothing. We left God completely out of it. And it was actually a marriage founded on really unbiblical things, very dark things. And we had tragedies after tragedies happen throughout the marriage. I believe the marriage was doomed from the start. And that God was trying to show us that we needed to turn to Him, and yet we did not. Now, after the fact, Now, I did come to God. I came to God right after my heart attack. And I mean, I came to him early on when my daughter died, but I didn't stick with it. And after my heart attack, I got really Holy Spirit filled, and I was doing really well. And then there was resentment on my husband's part, my ex-husband's part, and it became an obstacle between the two of us. Anyway, lost my mind, got my mind back, and I started following God wholeheartedly. By this time, I'm divorcing. We're divorced. After the divorce, my ex-husband was able to get his excavation business up and going. Imagine that. Now, and my life has been rocky. I've had to go through a lot of things, a lot of adjustments. But when you follow God, you end up going through a lot of adjustments. You have to heal from traumas, and you have to go through the journeys. You know, it's not all picnics and roses like everybody thinks it is. But I have been going through this, and it has been so worth it. Now, the reason why I'm sharing this is because for someone to sit there and tell people that they are sinning when they really don't have any idea what people have gone through, what a marriage was based on from the get-go, if God was even talked to or not talked to, and you sit there and tell somebody they're sinning, and they're sinning if they get remarried, I believe you are sinning by being judgmental and making that call. It's not your call. It's God's call. Now, second of all, if you are considering remarrying, this is what I would tell you. I come across this gentleman's feed the other day. He's only been on there a couple of weeks, and he is amazing. His name is Trevor Fultz, and he talks to you about your biblical roles as a husband and wife, or becoming a husband and wife in relationships and marriage. And this man is probably the most profound speaker I have ever listened to on the subject. And if you're going to ever consider being married again, I believe you really should listen to this man, especially if you are interested in a godly relationship. This man knows his stuff. He knows what he's talking about. And he doesn't put a man over a woman or a woman over a man. He is actually an extremely, extremely knowledgeable person when it comes to this area. I don't normally listen to people like this. I don't normally listen to people who are talking about marriage. I don't normally listen to people who are talking about relationships, because I figure, everybody's different. Everybody's different. But this man teaches you how to be the woman in the relationship. He teaches you how to be the man in the relationship. And these are not just scenarios. These are things that are biblical. And if you want a godly marriage, this is the man you really need to listen to, because he has some very good insight. And I'm not promoting him. Well, I guess I am promoting him, but I do not work for him. I do not even know the man. I've only watched his stuff a few times, and he is profound. He is intelligent. He knows his stuff. He's right here on TikTok. And again, his name's Trevor Fultz, Fultz. And I would suggest you listen to him. Now, as far as getting married again, if you're going to get married again, please talk to God about it. Go to God and ask God, is this the person you want me with? Do not leave God out of it. It should be a 3-chord marriage, not a 2-chord marriage. And not a marriage based on the world, but a marriage based on God. Have a blessed day.